What's going on, everybody? It's Aganaria, and today I'm going to be showing you the first video in my video series on how to get better at Call of Duty, especially since Infinite Warfare is coming out this week. And I just wanted to start off with how to get more kills because I think that is a very basic part of the game. You know, point and shoot, cool, we gotta kill. So, not to take away from the pros, because they do provide a lot of good information. I feel like they only scratch the surface with it all. When it comes to being a professional, sometimes you don't even realize what you're doing so much, so I wanted to give more of an insight into what they're doing and how they're doing it, and especially when it comes to me. You know, you're probably watching the video and thinking, well, how come she's allowed to give these tips and why should I trust her in this? I mean, I'm not a pro player yet, and I want to reach this point where I can kind of just share it a bit more. I do have a good KD, I guess. You would have to see my other gameplay to really see this, but overall you should just trust my ability and my tips in order to do this. But let's get right into it. The first thing we're going to talk about is hand efficiency. Okay, so first things first, we're going to talk about hand efficiency, or how you hold your controller. So basically, there are a ton of different ways that a player can hold their controller, but I don't think a lot of people utilize this in a sense. And you're going to hear a lot of people say, well, the best way to hold your controller is by playing claw. And I actually play claw myself, but I don't agree with this overall because everybody is different. So to say that playing claw is the best way, it just doesn't apply as much. It doesn't make any sense. It's like any other sport when you say, oh, you have to run like this, or you have to hold the bat like this, or you have to pitch like this. It doesn't work like that. People pitch the way that's comfortable, people bat the way that's comfortable, people run the way that's comfortable. So I want you guys to realize that you can play a certain style and have it be comfortable just for you instead of having to go with the status quo of everybody saying, oh, well, holding it claw is the best. I think it also depends on how you play. So I play really fast with the submachine gun. Typically, I can also play with any other gun playing claw as well, but typically, because I play so fast with that, I want to be able to press on my buttons as fast as I possibly can without having any holdups. But with that said, you know, Infinite Warfare is coming out in a bit, so that's a good chance to kind of mess around with the settings, with the button layout, with the stick layout and everything, in order to understand where your comfort zone is. But right here, you're going to see my little hand cam and my settings. I play tactical flipped, so my right analog stick and my circle button are flipped over, and if you don't have that already, I would say do that, even if you're not playing claw, because that way you're going to be able to slide a lot more than having to move your thumb all the way over to the circle button. My bumpers are flipped, so I aim with L1 and fire with R1, and I do that because my hands are fairly small, so that's my only way that I can get my middle finger around to that. But it's also because supposedly it's more efficient overall because you're not having to use that trigger. That trigger, it takes a little more time to press down. So you're going to hear a lot of people say, well, I play like this, and I also think that's a good idea too. If you're not willing to play tactical flipped, or play tactical, you should at least do flipped, one or the other, just to try it out. So here you're going to see my little gameplay with the hand cam, which is, I'm doing this for a reason, in order to show you that it shouldn't look like you're doing a workout with your hands over here. I mean, the whole idea is that it should take as much effort as possible when it comes to using your hands, because if I constantly had my thumb going over from the right analog stick to my buttons, it's just not that efficient. It feels kind of funky now if I did play like that. I would say, you know, this takes a while. If it feels uncomfortable at first, there's a good reason for that. That's because you don't play like that. And if you're willing to put in the time because you want to play like this, you will eventually get it. There's no time frame that I can give you because everybody is different. So some people might say it took me 3 days, some people might say it took me 3 hours. It all just depends on the person. But generally speaking, it shouldn't look like you're doing that much. The whole idea is to cut down the amount of work that you're doing. And even though it is your hands, it's still a huge part of how you play because everything relies on your hands. So with that said, be sure to mess around with the button layout, the stick layout, and try out different grips. Look up different grips online. I know some people play bumper jumper, which is, I used to play like that for a bit. It's a lot more efficient than the default version. Some people will say, well, I play some form of this, and they'll mess around with the buttons. Just be sure to look it up. Mess around with this when Infinite Warfare does come around, but if you're not going to play Infinite Warfare, this does apply to other Call of Duties. That's the whole idea, that this should apply to other Call of Duties in the franchise. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to talk about is sensitivity, and you're probably thinking, are you really going to talk about this? Yeah, I am, because I feel like it's something a lot of people kind of just glaze over when it comes to using sensitivity and why they should raise it or they should lower it. The great thing that they have most recently in Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare is that you have a vertical and horizontal movement, which means, oh, I feel like my horizontal is too fast, I can lower it. Oh, I feel like my vertical is too slow, I can raise it. And typically speaking, you want to raise your vertical movement, and I think Crim6 touched upon this best, because I do agree that the vertical movement in the games when it comes to aiming is very slow, and a lot of people are jumping in the air and everything. You're going to need to aim over fast because they have a certain speed to them when they jump into the air, especially if they have that G-slide going on. So generally speaking, sensitivity and finding the perfect spot for you is simplistic, and it's very easy to understand, but at the same time, you shouldn't mimic other players' sensitivity just because they play on that. Oh, well, so-and-so plays on this, and he's a really good player, so I feel like I should play on this. And that's not how it's supposed to work. You should find your own comfort zone. If you feel like you're going too fast from target to target and you have to use so much effort on your thumb in order to aim on them, then your sensitivity is probably way too high. I used to play on 1111. I don't know why I did that. It was a very bad idea, but I was told that, hey, you should probably lower it because you're whipping right past your targets, and it's just too much movement going on. You need to lower that down. And the same guy I was talking to said, I used to play on a 3-3 and I really prided myself in that. And that's where I was kind of like, really? You want to pride yourself in a sensitivity? I don't think it's something where you should brag about it. I think it's all about finding what's perfect for you. So with that being said, my criteria for lowering your horizontal movement is if you find that your movement from target to target is just too slow, it just takes way too long than you would expect. If it's too high, you're firing and it's just going all over the place, or you have to use your thumb too much in order to stay on target, then it's too high and I would lower it. With vertical movement, it's pretty simplistic. If you see that they're jumping in the air and you just cannot reach them at all, I would raise it. And if it's just you raise it in the air and you shoot right past them and you're looking at the sky, I would lower it. It's that kind of thing, and it's all about finding your own comfort zone. So if you play on 4-5, cool. If you play on 6-6, cool. It's all up to you. I just want you to be able to find your own comfort zone. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the HUD, or the heads-up display, and this isn't going to be a type of explanatory thing where I'm like, look, you have your ammo count in the bottom right, be sure to look there, also look at your minimap just in case. I do talk about the minimap in a bit, but I actually want to start with your peripherals. So when you look at this picture right here, you see there's the colored box in the middle with the red on the outside, and the red on the outside is supposed to have a visual representation of your peripherals, and this is because it allows you to see a lot more than if you directly looked at something with your crosshair. So I placed my crosshair right at this little building entrance way so that I can see to the left of me and see to the right of me without having to directly do it, and this allows me to see any type of movement out of the corner of my eye. So when I am looking at my crosshairs, I'm not even looking in the middle, I'm actually looking at the top notch. And I do this because where I position my gun, it's actually lower than where the torso is and where the head is. I'm looking for the torso and the head, not so much the legs. Legs is like a last resort type of deal when aiming at somebody, because it doesn't do as much damage. But you'll see here when I do play it, I kind of turn to the left a bit. That's because I hear the guy jump up to the hallway, and then it just allows a lot more ability to see other enemy players. The next example I have is just movement. You can see that I'm running down the right side of Frost, and I'm actually not looking left or right. I'm looking at this wall, but that's because I want to see anybody that wall runs and anybody that comes into the intersection. So like I said, along with using your peripherals, I said we're going to use the minimap, and that is also a huge deal. This is a minor thing, but when it comes to where your heads-up display is, you can actually decrease this, and you can see this in my video right here for when I got the nuclear. Also be sure to check that video out. But you can see my things are a lot closer than they typically would be, instead of putting the arrows right at the edge of your screen, because when it's at the edge of your screen, you're having to move your eyes a lot further and then coming back a lot further. And so when you put it closer, obviously it's going to be a lot more efficient for your eyeballs because you're just moving back and forth, back and forth. So typically when I look, or how often I look at my mini-map, I have this rule. It's a 3-2 rule. So 3 seconds on the main screen, 2 seconds on the mini-map, typically. That's without any UAVs up, without anybody firing anywhere. It's just to kind of get a general idea. But when a UAV is up, when you hear
Friendly drone support is active.
that means that you should be looking at the minimap more often. It should be like a 2-2, like 2 on screen, 2 on there, even a 2-1, because sometimes when the wave comes by it's really fast, but you want to be looking at it as often as you possibly can. The general idea is that you need to be looking at your minimap a lot more often, so that you don't confuse your teammates with enemy players, so that you can see their dots when they do fire. You can also hear when the shots are being fired, and if you're alone, if you usually get away from your teammates more often, you can figure, hey, this isn't my teammate, or you hear shots being fired and you're like, okay, is it my teammate or is it them? And that's when you should start looking up there to see if they have a suppressor or if they just show up on the map in any case. But main point being, look at your mini-map often. Do not let 5 seconds go by and you realize, oh, I haven't looked at my minimap, and then suddenly look, because you might be dead by then. The last thing I'm actually going to be talking about is hearing, or, listening. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I did divide the video down to our 3 senses out of the 5 that we have, obviously excluding taste and smell, because I'm not entirely sure you would want to deal with that anyways. But I first want to talk about the equipment. I could go on to a totally different video and talk about equipment, because that does improve a player, but right now I just want to talk about hearing the in-game stuff, and that is the most realistic thing that you'll have when it comes to the game. Not realistic, but the closest thing that you'll have to being in the game, technically, like this 3D feeling. So I think it's really important that you do have the ability to listen in and understand what are footsteps and what different guns sound like, and whether or not that's your teammate or it's an enemy player, because it determines whether or not you're going to get the kill and when you're going to get it, where they're coming from, all that type of stuff. And that being said, I understand not everybody is in a position to spend $70 on a headset that, they might not even like, or it might not even be that efficient. So I would start with the earbuds, because practically everybody has earbuds, and if you don't, they're fairly inexpensive. So that's a good way to start training your ears. And the thing that I would play in order to train your ears on what footsteps sound like, or what the in-game characters say, or where the shots feel like they're coming from, I would actually play solo games, or games that you can play by yourself. So free-for-all, gun games, those are the 2 that are mainly, actually those are the only 2, but you can even, go to somebody and be like, 1v1 me. So those are good ways to start hearing out for other stuff, with exceptions. Some people run dead silence and you might not even hear them, so you're like, what's going on? But gun game is a good one because they set you up with the most default things. So I would play gun game and get used to enemy footsteps, different gun sounds, what kind of gun it sounds like, if it's a sniper rifle, if it's an assault rifle, because that determines, how much damage you're going to do to you and whether or not you have a higher chance of killing them. So that's one way to train your ears. That's where I put the end of this video at. Yes. Hopefully the video helped you guys out. If it did, leave a like and subscribe. If it didn't, or I just didn't touch upon things that you wish I did, be sure to comment down below. And I hope you guys just really improve on this. That was the whole point of the video. And of course I didn't include anything like, here's a gun that you need to use, here's how you need to play, because the whole idea is that I don't want you to play like me. I want you to play how you want to play. And so I just wanted to give you the tips that can help improve it without having to actually push any of my playstyle onto you, and this should carry out through other Call of Duties as well. So it's not just for Infinite Warfare, even for Call of Duty Remastered. Yeah, you're not going to be like jumping in the air and everything, but the general idea still carries over. So again, if it helped you guys, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, comment down below if you feel the need to. Thank you guys for watching so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, night, morning, or evening, and I'll see y'all later.